These are my fairy lights. I have several sets of them and they all developed the same fault, which I'll go into later on in a video. However, they do plug into a transformer which then plugs into the mains, and therefore we're dealing with low voltages and low current, and the risk doing this particular repair is quite minimal. But that doesn't mean to say that you can get away bodging it, and there's an example of a bodge later on. Now another thing is that I pack all these away and store them in the loft when not in use, and the temperatures up there during our summers is quite high, and I think this leads to premature aging of the insulation, and I would recommend that you store these in a sort of a cooler environment. This is an LED party light. It has 3 LEDs running at 1 watt each, and it plugs direct into the mains. All the voltages to drive the LEDs are derived inside of this thing. It's all close together. Don't be tempted to try and do a repair. If you've got no experience whatsoever, leave well enough alone. It is positively dangerous. They do give nice effects though, and I would recommend that you get one that has a separate power supply. It'd probably be more expensive, probably even get one that's better quality. This one went faulty on me, and I wouldn't be surprised if the fault reoccurs, and I wouldn't be surprised if it occurred in quite a lot of others too, with a lot of use. I did a video of repairing this one, and in there I sort of moan like mad about the dangers of working on one of these, and take heed, it's not really that safe. These are my fairy lights, and I was packing them away for Christmas and I noticed the problem. I have a tendency to just sort of unplug them, chuck them away like that, and the problem is here. Pull this out. It's my own fault this problem's developed early, because I leave it plugged in to the transformer, and in so doing it's caused an undue amount of stress when I've picked them up. The transformer on there is heavy, dangling, has caused the insulation to break at that point there. The whole assembly is moulded, so therefore it's not wise to sort of fiddle about with that. Rather just cut it off and put on a new connector. New connectors are available, however there's a problem, and the problem is the internal diameter of this. They're available, as far as I can see, with a 2.5 hole, millimetre, as a 2.5 millimetre hole, or a 2.1 millimetre hole. So before ordering, one needs to know what connector one's got. So now I've got to find something that's somewhere between 2.1 and 2.5 millimetres in diameter. Now I'm going to just have a quick look around and see what I can find. Well, I'm back again, and this turned out to be more of a troublesome than I thought it was going to be. As you can see, this measures 2.3 millimetres in diameter, and I'm lucky that I've got a pair of calipers to measure the diameter. And here I go, and it won't fit in. So it's not going to fit in, which means to say it's 2.1 millimetre hole that I'm looking for. Can't swear to it being 2.1, but they're the options, 2.5 or 2.1. So I'm going to order some jacks that are 2.1. I don't have to worry what wire is connected to what, because it comes from a transformer straight off of the mains. This is the transformer block. I don't think there's any internals in here like rectifier or anything, although I'm not sure about that, and I will test it when the time comes. I think all the rectification is done at low voltages inside this block, plus also the fancy timings to flash the lights and things. Well, that's a transformer. They call it an AC adapter. It's 240 volts AC in and 24 volts AC out. Quite a nice, robust unit. And should the lights never work, then it'll come in handy with something else. Well, after a pregnant pause of a couple of weeks, the new jacks came in. So, with these, it's just a simple case of moving a little rubber and then unfolding and soldering the wires in place. Now I'll just strip these back off camera. I'm just going to tin the wires and hopefully they don't move about too much. Done. Done. And they've been cut specifically to length to fit these. I'm not sure which would be best to fit first. Probably that one. And that one. Well, that's it. I've finished soldering it together. I've crimped the section there that hold the cable rigid, and now we put it together. And I fortunately remembered to put that over the cable before I started, and the little ring goes over like so now, and then plugs into here. Well, there you have it. There's the lights all twinkling again. And I have another two sets of lights that are similar, that need the same treatment, all before Christmas. And it's now April, so I should get the job done. And just as an example to prove my point, is the next set of lights I've got to do. And do they work? I have no idea. Well, they were working when I unplugged them last. But this is the type of silly thing that we do to get by, and the result of it can be quite catastrophic for a lot of people. Fires, for instance. As you can see, they still work, but that plug needs changing. And just in case you think I should know better, these you can see that I've actually separated the wires here and bound them up in some sort of, I don't know what it is, but whatever it was, came in handy at the time. It worked, but certainly not recommended. All falling apart now. just replace that one. It looks a lot cleaner than it did before. I'll plug it into the transformer. And we're going to test these lights. See what happens. Yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable about that. Okay, off to find the third one now. But I won't bother to show any more video though. How often do we find ourselves where the jack plug is taking the weight of the lights? And it is policy to make sure that you've got these items slack and well supported so that they puts less stress on the wiring and the problem won't occur so often. The good point about these jacks is that you can undo them and resolder them anytime the problem occurs with the insulation. Well, woke up in the middle of the night and thought to myself, I could do that a little bit better, I'm sure. So this morning I'm going to try to improve upon the way the wire is retained in the jack socket. I don't like the way this is crimped over the cable. There's only one layer of insulation, so I'm going to undo that and put some heat shrink sleeving over there so we've got 2 layers of insulation. Afterwards I'm thinking of filling the voids where this fits inside with hot glue. I suppose you could use silicone sealant, but I prefer something to be a bit more instantaneous. And when I folded it over, I'm pondering the possibility of putting a broad heat shrink over the body here. Might be a bit overkill, but we'll see what goes on, try it and find out. I'm not expecting it to come out clearly, but I've got a sleeve on there, heat shrink sleeving, and I've crimped it in. And now I'm going to try filling the voids with some hot glue and closing it up. Pinch it together. This is not turning out very successful. Well, I managed to open it up and put a lot more hot glue inside of it, and a little bit squeezed out, and I've sort of round the edges there. If I'd have let my hot glue go and get up to temperature, it would have been a lot easier. Now I'm going to shrink the sleeving, that part of the sleeving, using the hot air gun. Job done. I think this is probably about the best I can come up with. The heat shrink sleeving over there certainly gives a lot more strain relief to that point there, and hopefully the glue inside helps to retain the cable a bit better. From an amateur's point of view, that's probably about as good as I can do, and we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to getting a couple more years use out of the lights.